Mandukya Upanishad, Pranam Mantra. Om Bhadram Karne Bhishnuryama Deva Bhadram Pashe Makshavirya Jatra Sthirairangaye Stustuvagang Sastanubhihi Vishema Deva Hitam Yadayu Swasti na Indro Vriddhashrava Swasti na Pusha Vishwaveda Swasti nastaksho Aristanemi Swasti no Brihaspati'r Dadhatu Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. The previous talk was about contradicting the Sankhya theory and Nyaya theory. Now, we discussed in detail what is Sankhya theory and what is Nyaya. For us, the important thing is to consider that matter has an independent existence, and so you cannot have one unified consciousness is unreasonable. That is, Advaita Vedanta talks about presence of only Atman. But our common sense says that there is multiplicity of Atman. And of these, the most important is Sankhya theory, Sankhya philosophy. And there is Yoga philosophy. And then we have Dvaitavad. These all accept multiplicity of souls, multiplicity of Atman. What Mandukya does is, it picks up Sankhya and says, okay, tell me, for you, Prakriti, some total of matter, some total of energy is the ultimate, is a real thing. Okay, fine. But how does it prove that you cannot have one unified consciousness? And indeed in Sankhya theory, there is no other argument that can counter this. We discussed that in detail, so we are not going back. And then it contradicted the idea that Atman is connected with the mind. Because if Atman, the soul, is connected with mind, that creates lots of complications, which we detailed in the previous talk. Those of you who are interested can listen to that particular talk. Now that was actually continuation of the previous talk. So basically we are continuing with the talk previous to previous. Where it said, just look at this space, Akash. It is all one single unified Akash. And yet, there are cups, and there are glasses, and there are pots. And the space enclosed in all these containers appear different. But does that affect the ultimate space? No. Ultimate space remains the same. Just like that, there is only one Atman. Now, when we say one Atman, we are talking from our standpoint. Actually, you can't even say that there is one Atman. And we have discussed it many times. There is no multiplicity. Now, when you say there is no multiplicity, that does not mean that it is one. Essentially, it means there is no mind. Because the idea of 1, 2, 0, etc. comes from the mind. There is no mind. For those who have been listening to our talks very diligently, very seriously, and with all sincerity, I would want that they understand the most fundamental thing about Advaita. Advaita is not about one. Advaita is about negating the mind. Now, things like matter, the world, space, time, emotions, they all come in mind. Now, if mind is negated, everything else is negated. Now, what is mind? It's just a superimposition. This is what we will be discussing today. So, now what remains? What remains has to be understood by, dear listeners, yourself. No one can make it clear to you. Just to give you the example that we have used many times. Sri Ramakrishna was explaining Advaita to Swami Vivekananda and said, there are 10 parts. Sun is getting reflected. So how many suns are there? 11. 1 plus 10. And you go on breaking the parts. One remains. How many suns are there? 2. And you break the last part. How many suns? He said 1. Sri Ramakrishna said, no. What is there cannot be expressed. Now imagine Swami Vivekananda himself could not grasp the idea of Advaita initially. And when I first read this story, this incident in the gospel, I just could not make head or tail of it. My dear listeners, my valued subscribers, please don't feel disheartened if some of these ideas do not become clear in one go. You're listening for the first time, so there will be lots of things which will not become clear to you. Nothing wrong with it. Even Swami Vivekananda had difficulty grasping it. Keep in mind, when we are discussing Advaita, we are not discussing one, two, zero, etc. We are discussing absence of anything other than pure consciousness, absence of anything other than Atman, absence of anything other than Brahman. These are all same. Brahman, Atman, consciousness, awareness, they're all same. Sometimes awareness is used in the sense of the mind, but here I hope you will understand what we mean to say. With pure consciousness, it is all powerful. Obviously, it's consciousness, and its most potent, most powerful tool, or whatever you call it, weapon, is Maya. Maya means it can create superimposition upon itself. The moment superimposition is created, first it appears as one, then as two, and then as many. How one? You say that God alone exists. When you say God alone exists, you're talking about now one. And when you say Shiva Shakti, now two. And then you say Shiva, Shakti, and Jiva. You have multiplicity. All this is work of Maya. Now, if you ask me personally, although I have not read it anywhere, but I know this to be true. If you go deep, now I'll caution you again. I have not read it anywhere. It must be somewhere here and there. But it's not there consciously in my mind. Consciousness is of the nature of consciousness, as you can understand intuitively. What it produces is nothing, it's not Maya or anything like that. It just produces awareness. Consciousness, and there is awareness, which is simple. And because there is awareness, awareness implies mind. This awareness, which we call mind, is Maya. And now, the way when you are sitting quietly and imagining things, or when you are sleeping and dreaming things, that consciousness keeps on imagining things upon itself. And this is world, this is everything. What is Maya then? Mind. Maya is mind. And that's simplest way to explain it. But that is from the standpoint of Atman. When we are talking from our standpoint, picture changes. Dear viewers, dear listeners, believe me, it is very difficult to understand these spiritual truths from the standpoint of Atman. However popular talks on Advaita be, it is very difficult to look at the world, look at multiplicity from the standpoint of Atman. We always look at things from our standpoint, and we look at God also from our standpoint. So, this requires mental training. This requires being with the scriptures. Most importantly, this requires thinking. Unless you start thinking for yourself, unless you start applying your mind fully to it, it will be difficult for you to grasp, because you can go on reading number of Upanishads, you can go on reading the Vedas and anything you wish. Ideas will become clear only when it comes from within. So, how is it possible that there is only one Atman and yet their behaviors are different? See, Mandukya Karika is struggling, is making every effort to make us understand that there is one unified consciousness. Multiplicity that we see is of name and form. And name and form that itself are superimposition. Being superimposition, they are false. Uh, and just I'll draw your attention to a simple thing that what we are today discussing is quite simple. Okay, it's not complicated. So probably I will go a little fast. In case you have any question based on what we are discussing, you can ask your question. I've kept the chat open. Mandukya explains why is it that there is difference. Roop karya samakhyasya vidyante tatra tatra vai. Akashasya na bhedosti tatvat jivesu nirnayah. Translation is the form, function, name, but essentially name and form, are different here and there. Yet, this does not imply any differences in the Akash, which is one. The same is the conclusion with regard to the Jivas. Here, the analogy is being brought. This is an analogy, and please remember that this analogy is being used not to prove some point. The sages who have gone into the depths of their meditation, those who had Nirvikalpa Samadhi, those who have known the truth, they have seen that unified consciousness. And they are giving us example. And the best example that we can have in this world is of space. Space, Akash is the technical term for that. And we discussed Akash. Akash is space, but Akash is essentially the finest form of matter in Hindu tradition. So, Akash, space is unified, and yet, because of the presence of objects, it appears divided. It appears to be confined in various objects. Jiva. Jiva is the soul that resides with every living being. Just like that, just like Akash getting divided, Jivas appear multiple. The multiplicity in the world comes because of this. So, Acharya Shankar explains that whenever you have pots, etc., you do various kind of things. Sometimes, say for example, you carry water, you keep water, you hold water, etc. So we find that Although the space is one, unified, but because of different objects, because of different containers, their purpose changes, their name changes, their form changes, and the purpose changes. However, when it comes to the ultimate reality, do these space have the ultimate reality? Think of a cup. Oh, here we have this bottle. Think of this bottle. There's one unified space here in front of the computer screen. And suddenly I bring in this bottle. It occupies space. Space is not divided. There's space outside it, there's space inside it. Now, did this space get divided in reality? If this space got divided in reality, it will get divided again, again, and again. But actually, it doesn't get divided. It's just a superimposition. Break this bottle. So, what happens to the space that has been created here within the bottle? Nothing happens. No space was created, no space ever got destroyed. Space remained space. Just being honest, I can only struggle to make it clear to you. Understanding of the subject has to come from within. If you start thinking, if you go a little deep, the idea will become crystal clear. It's not really that complicated. The space in pot, etc., is superimposed. You bring in an object and space is created. Just like that, the jivas, the individual souls, they are mere name and form. That's a technical term they use, name and form. So, what is this Samarpanananda? This is a name and form. In reality, this is pure Atman. Why don't we realize it? Because we don't believe in it. Why don't we have all the qualities that Atman is supposed to have? Pure consciousness, hence complete freedom, and hence full strength. Because we don't believe in it. Do I believe in it? I don't think so. Did Sri Ramakrishna believe in it? There's no question of believing. He knew it. So why didn't he show his power? Because he was not a magician. If Bill Gates has a lot of money, he doesn't go on showing everyone that, look, see, this much of bank balance I have. It's only the poor who do it. Some people get some yogic powers and they go on showing it everywhere. I have this power, I have this power. I can do this, I can. People who are truly rich, they don't show off. People who are truly learned, they don't show off their learning. People who are truly spiritual, they don't show off their spiritual powers. We, the stupid, we think that if Sri Ramakrishna had power, why didn't he show it? Why didn't he change the world? Why should he change the world? Why? The world has an independent existence of its own. Why should you go change? Why didn't he alleviate the misery of people? Why should he? Misery and happiness belongs to mind. Atman is beyond it. Why should he go on changing it? But because people are suffering, and Sri Ramakrishna came to uplift the masses towards spirituality, towards that knowledge. Because if you just remove the misery, misery will come back. Why? Misery belongs to mind. Till mind is there, misery will come again, again, and again. Swami Vivekananda had very famously said, if you pour the wealth of whole of this country, India, to one village, even that cannot take away the poverty of that village till they learn to stand on their own feet. No prophet, no avatar, no God can ever take away our problems. No. till till we know how to get out of mind. Now, Apurva Sheel, I don't know. See, I think I told you probably in the past, or I told someone else. If pure consciousness is unified, then how Atma passes from Atma doesn't pass from body to body. See, this is the problem. See, please don't, please forgive me if you feel hurt. This is what happens when you don't study a subject systematically. You listen to this person, you read a book here, you Atma never passes anywhere. Atma cannot go anywhere. This is what we are discussing. And this is what we will be discussing. That which passes at the time of death is Jivatma. Here is this bottle. This bottle is to my left. And it is passing. Now it comes to my right. And it moves to my right. Now I decide to make it go up. It goes up. And I want to take it back. Left. Here it comes to the left. What is moving? The space enclosed within this bottle is moving. But is Akash, the totality of space, moving? Not even a stupid person will say that Akash is moving. So what is moving? Superimposed Akash. Akash that is enclosed in space. But is this Akash enclosed in space real? But no, obviously no. It's an obvious thing. So who moves where? Jivatma keeps moving from body to body, from misery to happiness, happiness to misery. Does Atman move anywhere? It doesn't move anywhere. Mr. Apurva Shil, is this idea clear to you now? Please confirm. Waiting for your answer. I think you had asked such question earlier too, and I'm sure many of you have this question in mind. See, the terms are different. Atman, Jivatman, Dehatman. Dehatman is body. These are different terms. Do not get confused between space and space in this bottle. Space in this bottle can move. But space in this bottle itself is an imaginary division of the master space. Just like that, Jivatma, that is Christian soul, the soul according to the Christians, that moves. For them, the soul stays in limbo, suspended animation or whatever you call, till there will be judgment day. So they say, rest in peace. May his soul rest in peace. Now Hindus, they don't understand anything. They have also started writing, may his soul rest in peace. Hindu soul is never in agony. It's the Christian soul that is always in agony, or they fear agony. What a wonderful religion. And we don't understand simply because it's written in English. Because it is written in English, it must be something very important. Once I was in my village. I used to study in a residential school. So one elderly lady in that village, she had some pain in the hand. So she had come to meet me, to see me, and she saw toothpaste. And she took a little paste and rubbed it on her hand. "And what are you doing?" She says, "My hand is paining, so I applied this cream." She had seen some doctor sometime when she had some pain that some cream was applied. She could not distinguish between cream, pain relieving cream, and toothpaste. I laughed. I was young, stupid enough to laugh. This is our plight. We don't even understand what we are copying. Sri Ramakrishna said very beautifully in Bengali, Babura jekale keche sekale bhaloi hobe. There was a feast and at the place of a jamindar. So when workers and peasants they came, they were asked, "Will you take this particular preparation?" They said, have the Babus, the gentlemen, taken this? If they have taken it, must be good. Now, if it is written in English, it must be good. So, what is written in English? After death, may his soul rest in peace. So, we also start copying it. So, their soul stays tormented in agony till their judgment day. Then they might be relieved or they might be sent to eternal hell. So, you might have stolen a mango because of that sin. You might go to the eternal hell. Or maybe they might send you to some correction center, God knows what. What happens in Vedanta, which is the primary philosophy of the Hindus, this soul, according to the Christian traditions, this soul is that Atman which is being reflected in this body. This is a reflected Atman. This is not the real Atman. A real Atman is the one infinite soul. So you cannot call it soul. Soul has to be transmigratory. Every time you use the word soul, it has to be transmigratory. It has to move. But Atman doesn't move. So Swamiji used the word soul because people in the West, they did not understand Atman. So sometimes he has made the idea clear. Very often our learned monks, they make this mistake and they cannot distinguish between soul and Atman. Soul and Atman are absolutely different things. Atman, which is associated with the mind, or the mind that is associated with the soul, that keeps moving. It's the mind that keeps moving, not the soul. So, there is always birth and death of the body. And there cannot be a body unless there is an embodied soul, which is known as Jeev or Jivatma. Christians call it soul. It moves. But does it really move? No, it doesn't. I mean, does Atman move? No, it cannot. Where will it move? It's infinite. Where will it go? Even if it wants to go, where can it go? So, Mr. Apurva Sheel, is the idea clear to you? And anyone else for whom the idea is clear? That is right, yes. Teacher also needs to hear yes. Oh, no one is responding. So what Mandukya is telling? So finally Dimple Madam has said yes. Don't get confused. Don't you get confused between Atman and soul. These are absolutely two different things. And when you import some idea, some word from a different system, apply it here, there will be a total confusion. Oh, there comes Shastramayananda Swami. My brother monk telling that it's clear, it's clear. And now, this is what Acharya Shankara explains. The way division in space is not real. Just like that, this Jivatma, multiplicity of Jivatma, is not real. What is that? Superimposition. Superimposition of whom? Mind. The common term for that is Maya. Maya is a common term used to express terms like mind, time, space, events, that is causation. All these things combined together is one single word, Maya. When you say Maya, all these words are included in it. Traditional Advaita Vedanta doesn't go in such detail, it's not needed. Vinayak Deshpande. See, Vinayak Deshpande, you are asking what say Maharaj when is past. You simply say that हिंदी में बहुत सुंदर बोलते हैं उन्हें परम गति प्राप्त हो May he attain the highest liberation, or simply say Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. That's the best that we say. Or something equivalent, because Hindi, in Indian languages, we have hundreds of expressions. उन्हें सदगति मिले, उन्हें स्वर्ग प्राप्ति हो, उन्हें मोक्ष प्राप्ति हो. Those of you who do not understand Hindi, please do not mind it. But we have hundreds of such expressions. But foolish that we are, only thing that we can do is to ape. अंग्रेजी में लिखा है तो होगा. अंग्रेजी दवा चाहिए. They need something अंग्रेजी. If there is something अंग्रेजी, it will be all right. And there is this joke. There was one person, he was so obsessed with everything imported that when doctor wanted to apply some local anesthesia, he said, "Doctor, don't give me anything local. Please, whatever the cost, get me imported anesthesia." Even local anesthesia, no local anesthesia, imported anesthesia. These are our plight. If English language says, "May your soul rest in peace," we don't even think what the word expression is. Anyway, so this verse, it says that comparison with Akash, and says multiplicity of jivas, superimposition, just name and form. And name and form, they do not have the absolute reality. For my dear viewers, my dear listeners, now please try to understand, every time they talk about reality, Advaita talks about reality, they say, if it is real, absolute reality, it has to exist in the past, present, and the future. Anything which was produced at some point of time belongs to Maya. And so this is not absolute reality. Jivatma is a product of Maya. So it's not absolute reality. There will be more discussion on this. So the question is, but there are differences noted. People are asking, the way you people ask some question. One observes differences. Nakashasya ghatakasho vikar avayabo yatha naivatmana sada jivo vikar avayabo tatha. Vikar. Vikar is some kind of transformation, some kind of change. Vikar. Now, when you look at this container, this bottle, how is ultimate Akash related to this Akash of this bottle? How is the unlimited Akash connected with this limited one? Is it some kind of transformation? No, it's not. Is it a part of that? No, not even that. This division of Akash, this division of space, it's all mental. Think of a floor, say your room, and you draw a line with water. There's a clear division. You come after some time, you find that water line has dried up. Now, what happens to space? Well, nothing had happened in the beginning. Nothing has happened later. It was all here. So-called division of space is here. So-called multiplicity of jivas, multiplicity of human beings is here. It's not in the real. So, sorry, Acharya Shankar explains the way infinite sky or unlimited sky has no relation with the limited one. Neither this transformation is some kind of transformation, nor there is relationship as whole and the part. So, when it comes to Dvaita philosophy, any kind of Dvaita philosophy, we shall see as we proceed. Mandukya will demolish every kind of dualistic philosophy. That includes Buddhism. In case of dualism, the division seems to be real. If you study Vaishnava literature, although they have their own arguments, sorry, getting dried up. When you study dualistic philosophy, they have their own arguments, and they had great teachers like Madhvacharya, considered to be one of the greatest that India has produced as far as philosophy and logic are concerned. The relationship between Brahman and Jiva, they become actual transformation is there. Jiva, the individual, can never be one with the universal. So the transformation is real. As for Ramanuja, imagine this Karika was written at least, say, 700 to 800 years before Madhva came, and at least 500 years before Ramanuja came. So these ideas, what Ramanuja preached, or those preached by Madhvacharya, there's a very beautiful book by Ramakrishna at Mailapuram by Swami Tapasyanandaji, Bhakti Schools of Vedanta. Those of you who are interested in this, you can get a copy of it and read Bhakti Schools of Vedanta. So Tapasyanandaji, who was a great scholar, he termed thoughts of Ramanuja and thoughts of Madhva to be Bhakti schools of Vedanta. So Shankaracharya is Jnana school of Vedanta and they are Bhakti school of Vedanta. It's a very beautiful book. There also, practically every school of Vedanta has been discussed. In that Bhakti school of Vedanta, you realize that thoughts of Nimbark and Ramanuja and Madhva, they are all there in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what happens is, here is this universal soul, Atman, and here is the individual. What is the possible relation that you can think of? Think of yourself. That is, here I am, me, Samarpanananda. And there is Brahman, there is Sri Ramakrishna, God. What is the relationship between me and him? And what is the relationship between the Jeev that is inside me and Brahman? Naturally, many possibilities open. One possibility is we are eternally separate. That is Dvaita. Another possibility is that we are like tree and leaf, connected, yet separate. Then there is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Achintya Bheda Bhed. Then there is Shuddha Dvaita. There are schools and schools and schools. And they are all about what's the relationship of Atman with Brahman. This shlok negates that. Says, other than complete identity between the individual and the universal, there is no other relation. Neither there is a real transformation, nor it is the relationship of the whole and the part. So translation is, as the Ghatakars, that is portioned off by the pot. There's a pot, it's portions off. It's neither the evolved effect, transformation, nor part, this whole and the part. So is the jiva. It's neither the effect nor part of the Atman. Relationship between Atman and jiva, universal and me. The universal has not evolved into me. Okay. In that case, am I part of the whole? Says no. I'll stop for a minute just to ask, is the idea clear to you all? Because many of you might be hearing it for the first time, and might be difficult for you to grasp. It's my responsibility to ask you if it's clear. So it says that Mandukya Kasturi Sen Gupta says no. What is not clear? Just don't say no like that. What exactly is your problem? You can listen to the talk once again. What this verse is essentially telling, there is Atman, the infinite, and is Atman that is within me. What is the relationship between me and the universal? Priyanka Bhattacharyya, please elaborate a bit. My God, what's there to elaborate? It's very simple. I don't know why you have this problem. Here is this space within the bottle, and there is a space, as we understand, the whole of it. What is the relationship between this space within the bottle and the whole of space? You tell me, what is the relationship? Is this space a part of that huge space? Apparently, yes. In reality, no. Is this space an evolution of the universal space? Apparently, yes. In reality, no. Just like that, the individual soul may appear to some as an evolution from that supreme. Like, if you read the description of origin in different religions, you find God created. Now, when God created, what's the relationship between God and the individual, of servant, of the slave? What is the sadhana? Sadhana is as the sun, the way Jesus says. Sri Ramakrishna repeatedly says, Sevak Bhav, the way Mahavir Hanuman was towards Sri Ramchandra. So is Atman like that with Brahman? No. When God creates the universe, the dividing line is mind. The moment you bring in the dividing line, mind, the moment you bring in mind, the idea of me being the son of God becomes real. The idea of me being the servant of God becomes real. The idea of me being separated from God becomes real. Now remove mind. Now what happens? Who is what? There is no transformation. There is no whole and part relationship. Yes, it's simple as Shastramayana says. So Devashish Das, yes, you need to listen. Devashish Das, as you rightly said, space within the world is like bubble appearing different, but actually awesome. Yes, Dimple Anand, she says like bubble appearing within the ocean. See, to understand the concept, you can bring in any analogy. Just remember one very important thing: the idea that you are one with the universal. This idea actually comes only when you have nirvikalpa samadhi. There is no other way. There is absolutely no other way to gain this knowledge. The second best is you keep studying the scriptures, and slowly your mind catches an idea. But believe me, dear listeners, I know monks, I've known monks. I've been in Uttarkashi. I've been to Uttarkashi thrice or four times. I don't remember. Once I was there for a year. I've talked, and they talk really big. You go to Haridwar, and from Haridwar up to Gangotri, I've been to all of these places. Big. They talk big. Understanding? Well, I have no one to pass judgment. Just believe it. If I had real respect for their learning, I would have been their disciple, not of the Ramakrishna mission. It's very difficult to grasp. It's very, very, very difficult to grasp Atma Tattva. It's not that easy. Your mind has to be serene. I'm talking about scriptures. The real knowledge comes only in the depth of meditation. Now we are studying Shastra, scriptures. Now Shastra is trying to explain something which cannot be grasped by the mind. You are trying to say that, look, go beyond mind and try to feel what is there. Now, how do I go beyond mind? Through mind. How can you jump? How can you jump out of yourself? You can jump a height. You can scale a wall. But can you jump out of yourself? No, you cannot. So, how to know something with the mind which lies beyond mind? This is impossible. So, are they talking rot? No, they are not talking rot. Because we have a galaxy of saints and sages who have realized this and who have affirmed this. So they go on giving different examples, they go on giving different arguments to make this idea clear. Those of you might have just imagine, take a torchlight, or nowadays we have only phone, and phone has a torchlight. Throw that beam on the wall, clear wall. Take a piece of cardboard, make holes, make designs, and bring it in front of that light. What happens? Now images appear on the wall or on the screen. And now make that cardboard move. Images will move. As say in earlier days, we used to have projectors and there used to be film reels and movies go on. Now remove the cardboard. What happens? They all merge into one. Did those figures on the screen merge into one? Now, how can they merge into one when there was no figure? Can you grasp it? To grasp it, my dear listeners, if you are you really keen to understand it, go today, sit in silence for 2 flat hours, thinking only of one example. Light, cardboard with holes. So the points appearing on the screen, figures appearing on the screen. First you make one hole and suddenly one point comes into existence and you say, dot has been created. Then second dot, third figure, fourth figure, like that. You go on creating. And then you remove the cord, the card, and it's all light. What happened? They all merged into one. Neither there was creation nor there was merging. It was light all along, one unified. What was playing the trick? The card. Mind is that card. Mind plays all these tricks. To understand it, if you believe me, if you have any faith in me, go sit flat for 2 hours just with this analogy. Think, was there any creation? Was there any dissolution? Was there any unification? There was none. What happened? Nothing happened. One card came. Where from that card came? Now look, we are in this world. Because we are in this world, we will have to take up examples from this world. But from the standpoint of consciousness, consciousness is all powerful. What it does is it simply becomes aware. That awareness is like that card with holes. And it's like the film reel moving in front of light, projector. Things are moving. Reel is over. Then what happens? You might have seen. Only the projector light is there. Now, what happened to all those characters who were dancing and singing and fighting wars and this and that? All merged into one light. Did they merge? They never were. See, I'll tell you personal experience. I grew up in a village. So when I was a young boy, I first saw a movie in some town and I was amazed. As the luck would have, the name of that hall was Picture Palace. So I kept arguing with my friends that look, where I saw this movie was a picture palace, but everywhere else it's all real. I was very young, 5 or 6 years old, and I was convinced. I was convinced. Then we had a piece in our textbook somewhere where they explain how a movie plays, about reels, and how they have frames that change a bit, a bit, a bit. I couldn't get any idea. And then by chance, in some 50 years ago, they used to have reels. And there was a toy where you could move that reel and see a story being played out, small clips. And I saw very closely one figure to another, there was a very slight change. And when moved at a particular speed, they appeared to be moving. I tell you, it was such a big shock for me that movie films, they're not real. They're just like dead pictures. They're just like pictures. Slight changes, slight changes, slight changes. They move before light. The whole thing comes alive. I was maybe 8, 9 years old. Such a big shock for me. As if my world came crashing down upon me. Such a big disappointment about movies. Not that I don't like movies, I like them, but I'm talking about certain truth. This is the relationship between God and creation. It's pure light. Using our terminology, you place that reel. And this Jagamaga, Jagamaga, Jyoti Jalaya. So this bright universe comes into existence. But exactly what is happening? Nothing is happening. There's only pure light. So those of you who have still difficulty understanding, please sit in silence at least for 2 hours. Do nothing. Close your eyes, sit silently somewhere and think. Torchlight, if need be, you take your phone, have a dark paper, make holes, keep playing and see how light blobs, points of light, they get born, they stay, and they merge into that ultimate light when you remove that. And then you realize neither there was birth, nor there was existence, and nor there was any dissolution. The light was the way light was. It was the card playing in front of it. This is the reality between Brahman and Jivatman. So, well, our time is up. What can I say? I had, I was thinking of having, like in the next verse, it will say, यथा भवति बालानां गगनं मलिनं मलय तथा भवति अबुद्धानां आत्मापि मलिनो मलय. The way, the way an ignorant person thinks that the sky is bent, tal, or the sky has got dirty. The space neither has any dust and nor it is curved. Just like that, ignorant people think. What they think? That Atman is multiple, Atman is born, Atman dies. As the ether, the space appears to the ignorant children to be soiled by dirt, curvature, tal, mal. It's a very, oh, here it is only malin. Malin is dirt. They use tal, malvat. Space appears curved. More interestingly, that I have used in my Kratu book, last chapter. You think that space is curved around you and you are the center of this space. And when you move, this curvature moves because you always remain the center of the universe. But this is true of other persons also. Space remains curved around him also. And when you grow up, you realize that everyone is the center of this universe. Shocking. Oh, Vinayak Deshpande, you are asking absolutely. I don't want to use any adjective. You don't have understanding, and you are not even listening to it properly. God, I don't know. I- This is this is disheartening. I shouldn't be using this word. It means you understood nothing what I am saying. It's not our mind. It's Atman connected with the mind. Please listen to our talks from the very beginning. Vinayak Deshpande, this is extremely disheartening. Your comments are extremely disheartening. Says that the way an ignorant kid thinks that space is covered around him, the way an ignorant person thinks that sky is dirty, sky never gets dirty. Just like that, ignorant mind thinks that Atman dies, Atman is born, Atman is multiple. When you think that I am happy, I, the Atman, and you think that I will be judged by some God sitting up, and these are all foolishness because Atman, pure consciousness, is ever present, everywhere present, it goes nowhere, and we are that. So, what moves? Your imagination moves. But we are discussing that from the highest standpoint. When you look from the bottom, what do you see? You see only confusion. I had studied a lot with Srimad Swami Mokshadanji Maharaj, Ram Maharaj. He passed away long ago, and I had spent thousands of hours with him. And whenever I asked some question regarding Advaita Vedanta, he would always say the same thing that look, you are once again falling in the hole of dualism. So, supposing, think, here is my hand. One side is dualism, another side is non dualism. When you see from the standpoint of non dualism, whole idea will become clear as it becomes clear to the sages who have experienced Atman. When you look from the other side, which is duality, it will never become clear. There's just no way. And that is why there's just no way to understand Advaita Vedanta just with the help of your mind. You have to have an intuitive mind. And Advaita Vedanta can be understood by extremely sharp minds. Advaita Vedanta is not meant for ordinary minds. Now, if you are listening to our talk for such a long time, I assume that you have very sharp mind. But with sharpness, there must be intuitiveness. Intuitiveness comes through through silence. You have to think, think, think. When the idea becomes clear, it will become clear on its own. No teacher can make it clear. Either it is clear to you, or you will have to struggle a lot. Believe me, dear listeners, no teacher, no book can make it clear. You have to work it out yourself. We can just go on throwing the ideas. You can latch on to some idea, contemplate upon it, and then it becomes clear. Thank you so much. Oh, we have exceeded our time very badly. Thank you so much. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om.